Yeah, absolutely. I got so much.
We are live streaming, and it will continue throughout to the end of the town board meeting.
Was one of them in English?
Yeah, yeah. I need his name. Okay. Quick question for you.
It's not.
No, not at all.
I don't think it's on. I think so too.
Okay, all right. So maybe we'll let Ron Rosler come up and say a few words. Okay. Hey. Yeah, it's getting turned down, right?
Is it?
Wait a minute.
This is function two. Because it was suspended, I didn't get to read it, so.
Okay. See you for a second. Yeah, I mean, it's all right down in here. No, this isn't negative. So
Oh, I needed number 13.
yeah, this is going to be, I'm hoping no one.
That's where it is.
Yeah.
That's where he is. I was sorry.
Yeah, we turned it down before. But we never actually voted to turn it down.
Right.
We just turned it, yeah, so that's what we're doing.
Because that's, I'm sorry.
Hey, how you doing? Oh.
We need resolution.
You need 13? All right, we'll get it for you.
Yeah.
Diane, Melissa needs resolution 13. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first finance and management meeting that we've had, committee meeting that we've had ever, to my understanding, in the town of Lancaster. And basically, we wanted to make sure, we made some promises that we were going to be very transparent when we all ran for office, and we want to make sure that we're living up to this. The money belongs to the taxpayers of the town of Lancaster. We are making sure that this is live streamed, that everybody knows what's going on. And then what we're going to do is at some point turn it over to the Director of Administration and Finance, who's going to go through a whole bunch of the numbers and how the town sits at this point in time financially. But the first thing we're going to start with is we are going to start with a report that came in from the Office of the State Comptroller. And it was a pretty damning report about how things had been handled in the supervisor's office in 2023. So we're going to start with that, and then we're going to move on to how things are being done now, and and again, tell you where finances stand at this point after 6 months of the year 2024. Okay. Okay. The Town of Lancaster Town Supervisor's financial duties document is on the website, and anybody can read it on there. And basically, their findings are as follows. Okay, the audit objective: determine whether the Town of Lancaster Town Supervisor adequately performed his financial duties. The key findings are: the former supervisor did not perform his financial duties and did not monitor the work performed by the firm he improperly contracted with to act as Director of Finance, resulting in incomplete and inaccurate financial records and significant control weaknesses, including monthly financial reports were not generated and provided to the town board, and bank reconciliations were not completed promptly. 86 budget lines were overspent by nearly $9.2 million, and 21 budget transfers totaling $483,122 were completed without board approval. We did go back and send them a little additional information on the $9.2 million, that it was probably more likely that the money was never loaded into the account lines and wasn't actually overspent, which gives the same impression that it was overspent. 76% of non-recurring journal entries were made 70 days after the transaction took place, a long time. 60% of journal entries were recorded and approved by the firm without the supervisor's review or oversight. The supervisor also compromised the security of the town's resources by granting unrestricted access to the financial system and online banking to a third party, and by not ensuring proper segregation of duties or other mitigating controls were in place. For perspective, the firm was allowed to distribute $2.5 million of the town's cash without any town official's approval. The supervisor and the other board members were unaware of these deficiencies and continued to pay the firm even though the contract terms were not fulfilled, because they did not monitor the town's financial activity and the supervisor did not monitor the firm. Now again, this was done in 2023. This is not current what is going on. The key recommendations, the audit report included 16 recommendations to town officials, and a quick summary, the town officials agreed with our recommendations and indicated they had already begun implementing corrective action, and we'll get into that. So the 16 recommendations that came out of this audit, there's a lot of pages in between here that get into detail as to exactly what happened. I'm not going to cover those right now for time factors, but this is available online and anybody can read through there. What they recommended was the following. The board should ensure that if an individual firm is contracted to assist the supervisor with the financial duties, that the duties assigned are ministerial in nature and the appointment complies with the applicable town policies. 2, ensure if request and received an accurate, detailed monthly financial reports that can be used to monitor and manage financial operations. 3, require all budget transfers to be presented to the town board for approval. 4, consult with legal counsel to determine and recover amounts remitted for services not rendered. 5, properly audit and approve all claims for payment. 6, adopt a written online banking policy to clearly describe the procedures for processing, authorizing, reviewing online banking transactions, including who will initiate, approve, transmit, record, review, and reconcile such transactions. The supervisor should properly appoint an individual to serve as director of finance and monitor the individual performing their financial duties by periodically reviewing journal entries, records, and reports, online banking activity, and bank reconciliations to ensure that the supervisor's records are complete and accurately maintained. 8, provide or direct the director of finance to provide detailed monthly financial reports to the board, which includes a list of all money received and dispersed, budget to actual comparisons of revenues and expenditures, fund balance amounts, and reconciled cash balances for each fund. Ensure journal entries are completed in a timely manner, and it goes on. Identify all necessary budget transfers and present them to the board for approval before the transfers are made. Ensure bank reconciliations are prepared and reviewed in a timely manner. Ensure the appropriate bank transfers are made and the accounting records are adjusted to reflect the correct account balances. 13, restrict user access to the financial system and grant only those permissions necessary to perform job duties while considering separation of duty objectives. 14, maintain control of the supervisor's electronic signature and review all checks after they are prepared and the signature is applied. 15, discontinue granting third parties access to the town's bank accounts. 16, attend applicable and beneficial training sessions to better understand and perform their financial duties. Training provided by OSC can be found. Okay, so it was fairly bad. I mean, there's no way around it. It was a bad audit. Things were not being done properly during the last administration. As a town board member, I did not have access to everything that they found along the way. I had some idea of some of the things that were going on. For example, the Director of Administration and Finance, I was told that it could not be a firm, and I brought that to the attention of the supervisor and the attorney who's no longer with us, and unfortunately, nothing was done at that point. There should have been a resolution to name somebody else. Now, we got this back in June, got the final out briefing back in June, and we responded to it, and I'm going to ask our Director of Administration and Finance to go through our response to what occurred here.
Thank you, Supervisor Leary. Nick Swanson, Director of Administration and Finance. Just to reiterate, the whole goal of these quarterly meetings is to really hit on the number 8 recommendation, financial transparency, and keeping the board apprised of what we're doing in the supervisor's office and what we're doing with taxpayer dollars. So in response to the report, we will also be filing a corrective action plan, which is in the works within 90 days of this publication. So please accept this letter and additional information in response to the report of examination 2024 M-32 regarding the Town of Lancaster Town Supervisor's financial duties. The Town of Lancaster, New York acknowledges and does not contest the findings and recommendations presented following the audit of the former town supervisor in 2023. Under the new administration, led by the Honorable Town Supervisor Robert E. Leary, who took office on January 1st, 2024, the town believes that it has and will continue to take the necessary actions to address and correct the key findings and recommendations outlined in this report. Supervisor Robert E. Leary started his administration with the goal of addressing and correcting the issues presented to the town in the informal outbriefing in 2023. In conjunction with the information presented to the town in said informal outbriefing and in the draft report of examination 2024 M-32, the town would like to share a few updates and a few actions that it has taken in the fiscal year of 2024 to address the numerous issues found in the examination of the previous administration. Supervisor Leary prioritized the hiring of a new Director of Administration and Finance from the day that he stepped in office. On January 16, 2024, the town board appointed me, Nicholas Swanson, to this position. Supervisor Leary has also restaffed the supervisor's office, which has eliminated all of the independent contractors who had previously held positions within the office. In doing so, this will also help to ensure financial integrity and restore financial controls through separation of duties as addressed in the audit findings. At the time of this letter, Supervisor Leary and myself are happy to report that the town has remedied 14 of the 16 recommendations presented in this report. Recommendation number 4 is currently being investigated by legal counsel, and a policy to address recommendation number 6 will be proposed for resolution and adoption by the town board in a future board meeting. Additionally, the Finance and Management Committee, comprised of 3 council members, who you see before us today, plan to begin holding quarterly financial review meetings, which will be open to the public to discuss and evaluate the financial health of the town and to promote transparency and accountability regarding the town's finances. Furthermore, I will be tasked with creating a formal accounting manual that outlines all accounting policies in one central location for the town. This manual will be drafted in accordance with the guidelines as prescribed in the Comptroller's Accounting and Reporting Manual, in conjunction with the recommendations and findings from this audit, along with input from the town's independent auditors and legal counsel. The manual will be reviewed annually by the town board and published on the town's website for all to see.
Okay. So we took some things that weren't happening properly last year. We identified what they were between the outbriefing I got in 2023 and the new outbriefing we got in 2024. And by the time we actually got the outbriefing, we pretty much had everything in place as to what we were going to do, how we were going to do it, and with the hiring of Nick Swanson over here, we had everything in place. Again, the only things we are working on is just a couple of things that we have to discuss with the attorney, whether we're going to go after the former contractor who was here because they didn't live up to what they were supposed to be doing, and we're putting this all down on paper. Other than that, I can assure you that everything else that was listed on there has been taken care of, and we hired plenty of people up there, came up with a procedure to make sure things are done properly, and Nick has been doing a terrific job in that. Do we have any of the board members with any questions on this particular item at this point?
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to say that I did have the opportunity to review this. I reviewed it in June when we received it, and then again last week. And I just found this report to be very troubling. You know, it's an indicator of a financially inept administration we had before, whose mistakes were really enabled by crafty lack of transparency to everybody. So, you know, with Supervisor Leary, Mr. Swanson, and the members of this board, we are now in the process of correcting those errors, as Supervisor Leary and Mr. Swanson have stated. And we're sensitive to that need for the full transparency. We're going to move Lancaster forward, you know, towards a sound and stable fiscal future. So.
Great, thank you. Anything else at this point? Okay, at this point, again, this is the first meeting that we had. I want to make sure that we get the numbers out there that we want to get out to the public, so I'm going to turn it over to our Director of Administration and Finance once again, who's going to tell us where we stand right now and anything else you care to discuss.
Okay, great, thank you. Yep, and just to reiterate, number 8 of the finding is putting out these monthly reports for everybody, keeping the public aware. So for the first 6 months of the year, starting with the town's general fund, we have taken in 96% of our budgeted revenue, with plans to exceed those numbers. I think this is a good opportunity this coming budget year to really reassess the revenue that comes into the town and look at the impact, potentially reducing the tax levy needed because of more estimated revenue coming in the next year. And none of the separate departments within the general fund do I find any concern that they will exceed their allotted budget at this time. We will revisit this again, obviously, in September. But as of right now, everything seems to be in order there. And it's pretty much the same story for just about every fund as of right now. So the estimated fund balances, which is one of the recommendations from the report, the general fund is estimated to have, as of June 30th, 2024, a fund balance available of $12 million. Of that balance is $9.7 million unassigned. The general fund town outside village has a fund balance of $931,000. Of that, $921,000 is assigned and $10,000 is non-spendable, meaning that it is assigned for a specific purpose. The highway fund town-wide has a estimated fund balance of $1,052,000. Of that, $957,000 is assigned for specific use. $94,000 is restricted for a specific purpose. Moving forward to the police fund. The police fund has an estimated fund balance of around $8.9 million. Of that, $8.5 million is assigned for specific use. $471,000 is assigned as non-spendable. Moving forward to the highway fund town outside village, they have a fund balance of $4.5 million. 4.4 of that is assigned. 150,000 of that is restricted and 26,000 is non-spendable. And that is the summary of the major funds. So that is a pretty good standing, I would say, for the first 6 months of the year. Obviously, we still have another 6 months and a lot of expenses to incur, keep the town operating, keep people safe, but the best way to budget, obviously, is to have a good, solid, projected fund balance for the end of the year. This will help us, reduce the tax levy or not have to impose a higher tax levy.
Okay, some of the other things that are different this time around is basically all the monies that were supposed to be loaded into our system have been loaded in there. So that's how Nick can very quickly pull up a particular line and find out where it stands. So that's why we're getting this information out to the department heads. We're making it public, in our communications. We're showing everybody the check run so they can see where we're buying things from. And again, we want to make sure that everything gets out there and everything is transparent. We also, by the way, just sold our bonds, are in the process of selling our bonds. And basically, we got $15,839,500, which is the old bonds and the new bonds coming in there. That's everything all together. When this went out to be bid on, to be bought, basically, they anticipated that it would be 4.5% that the town would have to pay in interest on those. But there was competition to buy our bonds with 4 different companies, and that amount went down to 3.5840%. So it went down significantly as to what we're going to have to pay on these bonds. We'd like to think a lot of that had to do with our involvement with Moody's. They gave us the highest rating that you can possibly have for short-term bonds, short-term debt. A lot of that comes from, what Nick has brought here, that we have changed things, okay? Before it was fast and loose, we weren't hearing what was going on. Now everything's been tightened up. We will have another audit during the regular work session by Dressler Malecki, and Charles Trottier is here tonight. He'll be coming up at 6:30 to do that. Okay, so that's kind of where we stand right now. We're going to keep an eye on everything as it goes through. We're going to hold all the department heads accountable, when they want to, buy something, okay? They got to have the money to buy it. They might possibly be able to move some money around from one account to another account, but again, that's going to have to come before the full board to be voted on. All those things are being done at this point in time. So everything that they criticize the past administration for doing, we've changed all that, and we made it so we are, and everybody is held accountable for where your finances stand. The next big process we're going to be involved in is the budget. When do we start the budget process?
Pretty soon, probably towards the end of this month.
Okay. So again, we're going to be sitting down with the members of the board, and we'll come up with a plan for the budget for 2025. So that's kind of where we stand with the finances at this point in time. We don't know at this point, to be completely honest, what it's going to be next year. This board has vowed that they'll never exceed the 2%. We want to keep it lower than that if possible, or no new taxes. We're going to have to figure that out based on the spending, what we need to do for next year. So we're not in a position to comment on that at all. But again, we will be having quarterly meetings. We will try to keep this as transparent as possible. Okay? Anything else to add at this point?
Nope, that's all for me, but if anybody ever has a question, they can reach out to me directly.
Okay. Anything else from the committee members? Okay. Okay. All right. I think that's pretty much it for right now for this first meeting. And if, again, anybody watching or if anybody here has any recommendations, other numbers they'd like to hear, we'll try to make those available. Again, we have put this stuff online with communications for you to see how the different departments within the town of Lancaster are spending. And if somebody exceeds what they're supposed to be doing, say, for example, we had somebody who spent, 80%, 90% of a particular line. We're only 6 months through the year. We'll bring that to their attention and try to curtail that, find out why that happened, and try to stay within the budget as close as possible. Now, things do happen, and emergencies come up, as we all know, and so there may be changes in there, but we'll make sure if they've overspent their particular line, they move some money from their account, one account to another account. And again, you'll see that, this board will see that, and it'll be as transparent as we can possibly make it. Okay? All right. Thank you very much for coming. We're going to take a little break before we go into our 6:30 work session, and we'll be back out here in about 8 minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Eric.
The live streaming continues.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
All right. That's what I thought. See what tomorrow brings.
That's my spot. What? As long as he has the correct contact, I just.
13? Yeah, that's my bad. What's going on with Brazen Brew? Do we have that on our list? No, you can hang out up here till we get through the committee reports. Did you guys call?
Yeah, we had scheduled, talk to, your office. Not sure, it wasn't Diane before you or whoever scheduled for you guys.
I don't have it on my schedule. Well, we gotta do the financial report. And if there's enough time left after that, then we'll squeeze you in there. But yeah, I don't have it on my agenda. Okay?
Yes. Don, I'm on the way over.
Pardon me?
You must have PTSD from all that. But it's really fortunate.
Okay, PTSD.
Do you have any questions on anything at this point?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Are we in agreement with the planning commission? No action. I don't really talk about it. Well, we'll work on it.
Hey, man. Speak to you for a moment. Sure.
Can I take that? Oops.
Sorry, I forgot all the- Thank you, Diane.
Every time I went outside today, it started raining.
We'll start right on top. Get it, that's it.
Hello. Taking those back.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the July 15th work session of the Lancaster Town Board. Tonight, during the work session, we're going to have the presentation of our annual audit by Director Malecki, and Charles is here to do that. And then we will squeeze in, hopefully enough time for a Brazen Brewery thereafter to do a presentation on their new site plan. So Charles, whenever you're ready to address the board.
Thank you, Supervisor Leary, and thank you to the Town Board for having me. My name is Charles Trotzi. I'm the Director for Drescher Malecki. We serve as the external auditors for the town. I know you guys have had the state audit, and so we differentiate in that the state's going to look at your processes, your controls, and they're going to dig deep into one area, and they're going to try to find as many information to provide best practices for you to improve, and that's what they did. The external audit, what we do here is we look at your financial statement as a whole, and we look to give an opinion on whether these financial statements are free of material misstatement and they can be relied on by the users. Supervisor talked about bond agencies and credit to keep interest rates low. Those are the real users of those financial statements. So without our external audit opinion, it'd be hard for those financials to be relied on. So I gave you distributed earlier the presentation that I'll go over. I'll try to go as quick as I can, but any questions, please stop me. With the presentation, I also gave you a draft of the financial statements. They are still in draft form. We have a quality control review process at our firm where once these are compiled by a manager at our office, they're reviewed by myself as director, and then they're going to be reviewed by an outside partner director that has no knowledge of the town of Lancaster. So that's what they're doing now. It's the third set of eye just to make sure that we didn't miss anything big. So we anticipate being able to issue by the end of this week. Bearing any questions from your group, we should be at a good place. So you have that whole draft financial statements, and then there's also a draft management letter that I'll be touching on during the presentation that was provided to your group. So just starting with the presentation here, again, we're talking about the December 31, 2023 audit. So we are 7 months past that, so it's under prior administration. But those are the numbers that we're going to focus on for this presentation here. So the first slide, we talk about what you guys are going to get as a result of our audit. The first thing, obviously, is the basic financial statement themselves. Again, I said our role as external auditors is to provide that opinion that these financial statements can be relied on. They are free of any material misstatement, and if they weren't, we'd have to report on them accordingly and issue a separate opinion. But we are moving forward with a clean, unmodified opinion. It took some time to reconcile all the books that weren't fully reconciled in the prior administration through June of 2023, but several other months leading up to the second half of the year. It took a little longer to reconcile, but we are at a position now, which is why we're a little bit delayed compared to prior years, so we could get to that final clean opinion. So we are moving forward with a clean, unmodified opinion after all these books and records were properly reconciled. The second opinion that's in these financial statements is going to be in the back of your financial statements on government auditing standards, which requires us as external auditors to look at your internal controls. Similar to what the state did, and they dug even deeper, we have looked at your controls for several years now, and we continue to assess to make sure that you have the right policies and you're abiding by those policies. If there were to be any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in your internal controls, we'd have to report them accordingly. And this year, we are reporting a material weakness in internal controls on the general ledger maintenance. Essentially, again, we came here, we started as early as April to start filing the state report, and we noticed that banks hadn't been reconciled, transactions weren't being reconciled monthly, all the way back to June 2023. So the general ledger maintenance wasn't kept up to date. So with that said, there was deficiencies in your internal controls, your policy weren't followed, your bank reconciliations weren't being reviewed, your disbursements weren't being reviewed, journal entries, there was no support, they weren't being reviewed as well. So it took longer, we elevated our audit risks, but you do have that material weakness this year in that part of the opinion. The third opinion that's in the financial statements that's on our letterhead near the back is on the uniform guidance. This year, as a recipient of over $750,000 in federal awards, you are subject to single audit. In that instance, we put a federal auditor's hat where we test your compliance with your ARPA spending. So we use the federal government's compliance requirements, and we test your transactions and your reporting requirements that you've issued under the American Rescue Plan funds, and we make sure that all the costs that were incurred were properly claimed, were allowable, and are appropriate with compliance by the U.S. government. And it is a clean opinion as well. So clean opinion on your financial statements, clean opinion on your uniform guidance, and there's some material weaknesses that has been addressed with some new positions in place this year, but because we are auditing 2023, we had to report on that material weakness accordingly. The second document that you're getting here is the management letter. The management letter shows other best practices, so potential items that we've noticed that aren't necessarily significant deficiency or material weakness, we're going to communicate in the management letter, and we'll touch on that later. And then auditor's communication letter, there's certain required pieces of information that I have to communicate with your group overseeing the audit. We'll talk about those on the next slide, but that will also be issued as a formal letter to you. And then departmental report. Part of our audit is also to test departmental departments of the town. So we'll issue an opinion on the financial statements of the town clerk, tax receiver, justice department, where we test the cash disbursements, the cash receipts collected, and we make sure that those are appropriate. So again, an unmodified opinion on the department's cash basis financial statement as well. So some of the required audit communications on the next slide. Again, these financial statements, there's 3 letterhead opinion that are ours. Everything else in that 80-page document is source data from the town. So this is where I like to say that we are here as external auditors. We do help compile the financial statements because we have formats and the statements to put them together, but we don't do any journal entries on ourselves. Everything that we do is presented to finance for approval. We don't reconcile banks. We stay at an arm's length transaction so we can still do the external audit, provide that free and reasonable opinion without having conflict of interest. Another part of our responsibility that I like to differentiate here is that when we come in to test as external auditors, we use reasonable assurance versus absolute assurance. It's different from what the state might do or what a forensic auditor might do if you ever need a forensic auditor. When we test populations, we'll use a sample. So we'll pick samples of the population, and then based on our risk, we're able to extrapolate that sample and say, hey, based on our risk thresholds, the internal controls of the town, we're able to elevate and say, based on this sample, we know that the population as a whole, for example, your accounts receivable or your cash, does not contain a material misstatement. So that's how we use reasonable assurance versus absolute. And then the other thing is we're not here to find fraud. If fraud were to exist, at a certain level, we certainly feel that our procedures are designed to find significant fraud, but that's a forensic auditor. So we do have procedures designed to do that, but it's not directly our responsibility, just as an FYI. Significant accounting policies, the second bullet there. If there were to be any significant changes in the way accounting has been made from one year to another, or if there's any new standards out there, Government Accounting Standards Board, what we call GASBs, we'd have to disclose them to you. This year, there is a new GASB that requires your kind of software arrangements. So your accounting software this year is a new type of asset and a offsetting liability that has to be reported on your financial statements. That's really the new thing from what you've been used to in the past. No impact to your fund balance. It's all long-term items, but they have to be disclosed accordingly. Significant accounting estimates is also required communication as part of the town. You're involved in some health insurance programs. You're involved in some compensated absences where you accumulate some sick and vacation time. You have some pension liabilities with your low SAP plan and your retirement plans. All those liabilities are pretty high dollars, but they don't affect your fund balance. Again, they're all long-term liabilities. They're actuarially determined or determined by a third party. Because of the data that's available, they're harder to audit. So what we do there is we just rely on the market out there, the assumptions that actuary use. We look at the data that the town itself submits, make sure it's complete, submitted on time, it represents true values, and then we test to make sure that those estimates are correct. So all those estimates that I disclosed, harder to audit, but we did test them accordingly with other local municipalities, and the assumptions used by the actuaries were fair. Independence, the only way for these financials, again, to be relied on is to make sure we're free of conflict of interest. So myself, anyone else in our firm is independent of members of the town, employees, or members on the board, so we can provide that free and fair opinion. And then other matters, this would be an instance where we disclose if we had any disagreements, if our scope was limited, if we wanted to test a particular transaction and finance would say, no, don't look at this one, look at another one, we'd have to disclose it there. We received full and open access, so it was a pleasant audit this year, and I think we're going to keep moving in that direction for future years based on some of the implementations that have occurred. Going into some financial data on the next slide, this first slide here shows your total government as a whole. Total government revenues and expenditures. The focus there is on operations. It takes into account all funds at once. So as you can see there, in 2020 and 2021, the pandemic hit, costs went down, and then all of a sudden some new one-time revenues came in from pandemic aid, ARPA, CARES, and then sales tax with some of the stimulus that was injected in the economy. A lot more people spent those monies and sales tax went up. Now, sales tax might come back to prior levels from the past, so that might slow down a little bit. But what you can see there is that your blue line, your revenues did go up. Total revenues at the end of 2023 were $41.7 million. Total expenditures were $39 million, so that's about a $2.7 million gap. Again, that gap, a lot of it is one-time revenues, and the good thing is that that's been earmarked for one-time expenditures in the future, so it's not like it's going to affect future budgets. Focusing more specifically on the general fund on the next slide. At the far right, 2023, if you want to put some numbers there, total revenues, the blue line were $13.1 million. Your total spending, the red line, was $12.2 million. So the general fund increased fund balance by $850,000 in 2023, leading to total fund balance in the general fund of $6.4 million, but of that 6.4, only $4 million is unassigned available for use. That represents about 33% of your total spending, which is pretty much in par with best practices from Government Finance Officers Association. They recommend plus or minus 2 months, which is about 17%. But when you're talking about a local town, when you're talking about an area that's subject to potential snowstorm, where you want to have monies up front to cover any potential costs without having to go out and issue some debt and pay interest on that debt, it's always good to have that little extra buffer on top there. And again, as you can see, when you just take a step back and you look at the story of this chart, with the pandemic, costs went down and your revenues stayed fairly consistent, accounting for a lot of this one-time revenues, again, where the town is making efforts to assign that for future capital projects for one-time uses. The change in revenues this year was $2 million increase. 1.2 of that was, again, one-time ARPA, pandemic aid, and $400,000 of it was interest with the market conditions. And that's something that we've seen across many local towns, obviously, but some were more aggressive than others, Lancaster being one of them. So additional extra revenues there. Expenditures increased $1.9 million. $900,000 of that was additional transfer for capital projects. Again, you've received one-time funding, and you're appropriating that to one-time spending, which is what you're supposed to do. The next chart, police fund. Far right, your total revenues were $13.58 million. Total spending for the year in the police fund was $12.63, so an increase in fund balance of $950,000 in the police fund, for a total fund balance of $5.8 million. 5.8. Of that 5.8, $3.8 million is available for use at the end of 12/31/2023, which represents about 30% of your spending. Again, fairly consistent with where you want to be. One thing that we talk in the management letter is financial planning, and this is, if there's one fund to maybe pay attention to, it'd be the police fund. Average growth in the spending is $5.3 million from 2019 to 2023, so an average growth per year of 5.3. Of course, with the American Rescue Plan Act, there was some one-time retro pays that caused this number to go up at the end of 2023. But what we document in the management letter is there's the agreement with the village to receive a portion of sales tax that's set to expire in 2033. And for the end of the year, we're talking about $1.3 million in revenues that comes from the village. If that doesn't come in, or if that agreement isn't renewed, or is there something else out there subsequent to 2033, that would be a concern. So again, there's many more years to think about it, but that's one that we earmark in the management letter as long-term planning there. Again, at a healthy spot still at 30% this year for 2023.
Excuse me.
The highway fund, town outside village as another major fund here. Not much of a story, a lot of ups and downs in highway funds based on equipment needs. Usually we see one year go up, one year go down, depending on the equipments and the replacements that are needed there. One thing that's good to note that we see other municipalities is with the rise in energy costs, we've seen a lot of local municipalities' highway funds go up significantly in spending. The town has kept relatively stable spending throughout 2023. So the net difference between your red line, your expenditures, and your blue line, your revenues, was $88,000 this year. So you used $88,000 of fund balance as planned within the budget. So your total fund balance in that fund is $2.3 million, of which $600,000 is available, which represents 16%. So you're right where you want to be. Trying to move quick. Observation, the last slide. Really, this is my chance to talk about the material weakness and some of the management letter comments. But material weakness, what we earmark in our material weakness here is, again, it's the general ledger maintenance. We came in, these books weren't ready to audit yet. There was still a lot of reconciliations that needed to be done. Director of Finance obviously took on a whole new role, trying to understand how things were done. Shortcuts were being made to try to reconcile the books. It took longer than expected, but books have become clean. Bank reconciliations are now being performed timely. Bank reconciliations are being reviewed. Journal entries are being documented. They're being added to the system. They're being reviewed. So the biggest thing with what we found in our audit and what was reported in the OSC is really just a lack of oversight. So whether it's bank transfers or disbursements, payments being made without proper knowledge, and it comes back down to the third party hired. A lot of municipalities are going to use third party accountants to do some of the ministerial responsibilities, but they can't take ownership of those duties. And so what we saw is that the ownership, because there was a complete lack of review on a lot of these bank reconciliations, payment, bank transfers, budget transfers, journal entries, that's where the title Director of Finance doesn't apply and shouldn't apply. So again, no reconciliations had been done since June 2023. We had over 20 journal entries, audit journal entries, which is too significant for a local town your size. Bank activity and reconciliations were not reviewed. Journal entries was not reviewed per your policy that says they should be reviewed. Payments made and dispersed without review and town knowledge. Bank transfers. Bank transfer access is a pretty significant one. I was talking to Luke Malecki, who's our office managing partner, who is doing the concurring review of these books. And what could have caused a third party to say, hey, we're going to transfer $4 million and go to Bermuda for a year or two. So that's a risk. It has to be reviewed. So the administrative nature that the OSC reports is fair. That's what it should have been. there should have been that review. So I'm happy to say a lot of this has been remedied, and I do anticipate the future audits to clean up that opinion, but that's what is reported there. As far as the management letter, I talked about the long-term financial planning of the police fund, just to make sure that the fund post-2033 and the agreement with the village is still sustainable. And ARPA spending, you still have $1.3 million to recognize as revenue as of 2023. I'm sure it has partially been recognized through 2024, but just a reminder that those funds are going to expire and they have to be claimed before the end of this year. And then just some control items. Interfund loans, there were some significant loans being made to kind of like shortcut some of the journal entries between cash and separate funds. But interfund loans should be short-term in nature. They shouldn't be significant and outstanding at the end of any year. So keep those clean in the future. And then shoring up some policies on the vendor listing, approved vendor listing. So when a department wants to purchase an item, they can select a vendor out there and make a payment. But before they're able to make that payment, they should verify if that vendor is debarred. There should be a policy on that. And then just some IT controls and supporting documentation for journal entries. But again, a lot of that has been remedied, so try to go quick. I'm happy to answer any questions. My information is at...
Hey, folks, can we keep it quiet in here so we can hear? Thank you.
My information is on the last slide here. I'm happy to field any questions now or anytime throughout the year I'm available. So I try to move quick. I know it's a lot of information to condense, but...
We appreciate that. Sitting up at the table tonight is our Director of Administration and Finance. Do you got any questions, comments at this point?
No questions that Charles and I haven't already discussed, but I'd just like to take the time to thank him for his patience throughout this audit, and I think that we worked together very well to kind of get a good wrap on the books for the end of the year last year, and we, in conjunction with Supervisor Leary and the remaining board members, I think we're headed in the right direction this year so far.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Any other board members, any questions at this point?
It's been very explicit, thank you.
No? Good, okay. Thank you, sir, appreciate it. All right, Brazen Brewery, come on up. Please state your name.
My name is Drew Schaub. This is my father, Herb Schaub. We're two of the owners. My wife's the other owner of Brazen Brewing. We're joined by John Barniak from Carmina Wood Morris, who's our architecture firm helping with the concept plan that you have in front of you. So when we opened 2 years ago, we had a site plan that was demonstrably different than we have today, right? We've grown a lot. I think if anybody's been to our place, you know we're pretty busy. So what the hope is to bring kind of our operating mode into up to speed and up to snuff here. So I've laid that out here. What we're seeking to do is amend our site plan. We're going to include additional parking. We'd like to put up a pergola or finish a pergola. We have an office and a storage container, and also renew our site use, our special use permit to allow additional seating and some background outdoor music. So the concept plan, which is on page 3 and 4 here, adds 21 additional parking spots. When we first opened, we only had 58 spots. This amends it to, I think, 79. The reality is parking is an issue at our place. We have kind of landlocked. I've explored options with other neighbors trying to purchase additional property. Hasn't moved as quickly as I'd hoped. There's some promise there, but it's years out. It's not months out. So, we're doing things to try to mitigate the parking situation. We've put stone down around the property to try to help with that. That's this picture in the back, and you'll note on the concept plan that we've done that to try to put down more parking for the customers that come in. The other thing we're going to do is start a valet service. So I think we're going to be the first brewery in Buffalo to have a complimentary valet. That should help significantly. So this concept plan lays out what the new site will be used and how it will be utilized. The special use permit is, I've put some suggested language out here. Some of it's based on Matt's recommendations that I think he put forth a few months ago to you folks. We will have a site plan amendment application by the end of the month. We'd like to see, or we will provide all of our business licensing documents. That's no issue. What I am asking for is a 250 seat maximum capacity. Our parking lot only supports, well, as per the site plan, will only support 201 per the code. But the reality is our operation utilizes outdoor spaces kind of intermittently throughout the year based on the weather. You know, we have a nice outdoor space that people like to sit in, and when it's warm out, really nobody's inside. So utilizing those spaces back and forth and transitioning between those, between when it's inclement weather versus warm, kind of necessitates us to have a higher seating capacity than what typically would be allowed for by code. The amplified music, so currently, well, we'd like to have this added to the special use permit. Currently, it says no amplified outdoor music. We'd like to use that, just have some background music on the patio. That's what we're looking for. We would turn that off every night at 10 p.m. The music would be kept to a level that wouldn't be additive to the overall background noise at the property line. Matt had this added in here. This applicant will authorize representatives from the building inspector office to enter the premises upon reasonable notice. No problem there. And the permit will be renewed every 2 years. So.
Any of the board members have any questions at this point? Matt, the next steps in this, I'm sorry, anybody over here? Yes. Okay. Oh, the next step in this is what?
Oh, well, we've received a application for a site plan amendment for the project.
Okay. So again, you're going to have to go back to the planning board,
Yep.
go before the zoning board, the whole 9 yards.
Yep.
Anybody have any objections to starting this process again? Okay, I think you're good.
Okay.
Go back to planning board, see how it goes.
We'll start over. No
Okay,
problem.
thank you. All right, we only have about 5 minutes left. Our department heads, if you can keep it fairly quick, we'll go around. Town engineer, anything?
Ed has given me a list of quick little things to go through. So with the historical building constructions ongoing, Siebert Road culvert, design has been initiated, geotech work is complete, environmental studies complete. Town hall soffits, change order 2 is approved, contractor proceeding, anticipate completion in 3 weeks. Warner Road reconstruction, draft design is complete, meeting with the highway department to review is being scheduled. Connecting Lancaster, 3 locations reviewed, Juniper, Stony Brook, Aurora Lake, Woodgate, Michael Anthony. Wetland walkovers have been conducted and we're researching funding opportunities. Ellicott Creek FEMA project consultant has initiated his work. Police building facade, architect submitted proposal, awaiting resolution to proceed. I think that's on tonight's agenda. Walden Pond turf field, we reviewed initial layouts, met with A-Turf, and to revise, new layouts are being prepared. Library renovations, issued requests for quotes, received quotes for restroom and hallway. Kitchen quotes are due on tomorrow. Traffic analysis proposals are received and under review, and that's it.
Great. Town code enforcement?
If I might ask to be deferred to our business meeting, I have a pretty good summary. And,
Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to, I'm going to, gavel in at 7 o'clock, and we're going to continue on with this till we're done. It's okay to do that. Our public hearing can be after 7:05. It just can't be before.
try
So we'll
my
do
best to
that.
get it in the 3 minutes. So a report to this board on existing derelict properties, abandoned properties. There's 4 total known in the town. 1 was immediately maintained after a notification, and this is historic in the last 2 seasons, and errors on the other side of the country of the deceased owner. That's over on Stony Road. 103 Pleasant View Drive, that heir is living at the property. It's been seen by neighbors and is currently within the court system for lack of maintenance of that property. 2 Nectar Road, the owner is still local, he works nearby, and he has a court-ordered warrant, obviously for the lack of maintenance on that property. 5817 William Street, that owner is deceased as well. My understanding is that is on the current county in rem list for an auction this fall. As far as the stormwater report, the Speedies permit benchmark has been met for July. Ed and I finalized the notification listings and municipal contact information packet on July 3rd. The Rue Madeline Pond, the courts have adjourned judgment until the owner can transfer the deed to the town as per the defendant's request. There was an obstruction identified as was reported at the 540 Ransom Road private system, and the owner did acknowledge the removal of that debris, and he'll notify us when that's been completed. And as of today, none of those private stormwater facilities have any filed maintenance agreements at the county hall for the individual parcels that were created. We've got several properties within the court system that have property maintenance violations. Several have lingered, in some cases, a few years. So hopefully we're going to start seeing some results and some cleanups on those areas. The special use permit status, happy to see our Brosnan Brewery made their presentation tonight. 867 Ransom Road, there is a salvage yard license pending. There hasn't been any progress based on the last hearing and the required barrier that should have been installed. We have not received any communications from the attorney representing the Speedway for the sound testing on site. And as of today, I did inquire from ESG Properties, the Genesee soil recycling facility, for
If you
their
could hang on, we're going to gavel in. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our town board meeting for July 15th. Diane, roll call, please.
Councilmember Burkhart. Councilmember Dickman.
Here.
Councilmember Schroeder. Here. Councilmember Studley.
Here.
Supervisor Leary.
Here. Tonight, our Pledge of Allegiance and our invocation is by Town Clerk Diane Terranova. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing.
Lord of the universe, you have given most of mankind a strong desire to do good, to be honest, to serve others, and to faithfully fulfill their obligations to their neighbors. Help us as town officials and humans to do good, to be honest and ethical in all our dealings, and to serve others, and to help us faithfully fulfill our obligations as neighbors to our community, our nation, and the world. Amen.
Amen. Okay, what we're going to do is remain standing at this point. A couple of days ago, we almost lost our past president, Donald J. Trump, and unfortunately, we lost an individual who was killed at that point. We think it's very important in the town of Lancaster that we have unity in this country, specifically in this town for us, and basically, we want to bring attention to that at this point. So I'm going to read something from Donald Trump. Day after he got shot, he was able to get up there and talk about it. And then after that, after we get done, we're also going to have a moment of silence for Corey Comparatori and one of our officers, fireman who was killed in the line of duty, not here in town, but while he was doing his regular duties. So if you don't mind remaining standing for a little bit. From Donald Trump, directly from Truth Social, thank you to everyone for your thoughts and prayers yesterday, as it was God alone who prevented the unthinkable from happening. We will fear not, but instead remain resilient in our faith and defiant in the face of wickedness. Our love goes out to the other victims and their families. We pray for the recovery of those who were wounded, and we hold in our hearts the memory of the citizen who was so horribly killed. In this moment, it is more important than ever that we stand united and show our true character as Americans, remaining strong and determined and not allowing evil to win. I truly love our country and love you all, and look forward to speaking to our great nation this weekend at their convention in Wisconsin. Now I call upon any other members of the board who want to say anything at this point.
I would like to, Mr. Supervisor.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The assassination attempt on President Trump this weekend was abhorrent. Every politician, local to the commander-in-chief, is a man or woman with a loving family. With our prayers for President Trump and the victims of this heinous act, must go our resolve to restore cordial discourse to our political process. America is a free nation, and we are a caring people who all have the duty to honor our institutions, respect the views of one another, and above all, to help rid our society of violence and hatred. I urge everyone to pray for America.
Any other board members at this point in time? Okay. All right, a moment of silence for those who were killed, please. Thank you very much. Okay. What we're going to do, as soon as I get done telling you what's going to happen during the regular town board meeting, is we're going to continue the work session and basically to make sure we finish up with our department heads. Tonight, we have 19 pre-filed resolutions, 2 suspended resolutions, 1 public hearing, 1 executive session. We are closing in the memory of 4 individuals: Charles Chuck Walter, Daniel Foley, Paul Krug, and Corey Comparatori. Suspended resolutions tonight involve 338 Harris Hill rezone and Lawley Property and Liability Insurance. The public hearings will be Greenlight Networks, which will be coming up, and we will have 1 executive session tonight regarding contracts with LVAC. So with department heads, we're going to keep going around, give them an opportunity to finish up the work session. Matt, you want to finish up?
Sure. I'll repeat my last point on the special use permit status. The request was made from ESG Properties to provide the information that was requested a month ago related to their soil recycling facilities. I did inquire earlier today if they had a status update of their as-built drawing as it was approved in that site plan. And then last but not least, there's been considerable interest in 2 parcels of land that were just recently listed. One is in the residential district that's gaining a lot of attention for commercial use. The other is a portion on Pleasant View Drive that is significantly covered in floodplain hazard area. Not to state that it's impossible to build, it's tedious. And that's my report for tonight.
Thank you, sir.
For your patience.
Highway Department, John Pilato.
Are we all done?
Good.
So currently the highway department we're grinding a lot of brush on town ditches and doing maintenance to these ditches to aid with drainage. Weed whack crews along with our tractor have also been out quite a bit for roadside maintenance. We've been experiencing some mechanical issues with our grappler, which has been down for over a week, so I'd like to apologize to the residents for the delays with the brush pickup. But we are sending crews out in dump trucks daily to try and stay on top of it. I'm really hoping that we get these parts back and get it fixed by next week. Also, we have our paver along with the crew out in Depew helping them pave currently. And I'd like to thank the board for the latest addition to our department. Ricky Burton is coming aboard July 29th, and he's on for tonight. I interviewed Ricky back in January and was impressed with his resume and background, but he didn't have a CDL. So I told him if he attained a CDL-B, I would consider him for an open position in the future. Well, Ricky went above and beyond and went out and got his A, and that's very impressive to me. He's got a lot of extensive construction background and paving experience with Bowman Asphalt, so I think he's going to be a great addition to the department.
Great.
Okay?
Thank you. Okay, Rec Department, Bruce Stutz.
Good evening, Honorable Town Board. Bruce Stutz, Parks, Recreation, Forestry, and Buildings. Eventful week at the pool. We had a tornado warning mid last week. Got everyone out of the pool, make sure safety first. Had a power surge at the NYSEG line behind the pool, pulled everyone out of the pool. Addressed that with OEM and Ron and quick response, so no one was hurt during that. A little scary for the people that were working. As far as also diving board had some issues, fixing ladder. Our supervisor's on vacation this week too, so it just happens to be that week. So on the playground side, Dawn and Bob have provided some guidance, so we're always looking to improve this, the Lancaster playgrounds and Adam as well. Kind kind of came up with these flyers. It's a good idea. We're actually going old school. We opened old school with the program. We're doing some slickering of the neighborhoods around our playgrounds. So we adjusted our schedule a little bit. We started out Wall and Pond Park. It's one of our key parks. We thought shifting that, actually closing that one down and dispersing our attendance to other parks. Westwood's gaining the most traction, about 60 people over the last 2 weeks over Westwood. So we went from pretty much 0 the first week to 60 with the guidance as far as the flyers, social media presence, talking about our programs at the pool, posting it amongst our friends. So we are gaining traction. Keeza's a steady stream of people there. If you drive by Keeza during the day with the pool and the parks and the fields, it's a very busy park. So just want to say thanks for the guidance on that, and that program is continuing to do well. Our basketball camp started, doing well. Track and field's going well. The golf program, start cornhole. We tried to get our games in today, but it was rained out. And then the rain has been a challenge for our department. They're not like normal rains. We're out of action for 1 or 2 days. It's like today. We were fine, and then we get slammed with rain. So it's been a challenge for our department, but we're doing well. We're communicating with all the youth sports and the organizations. So what we can do. But any questions or?
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
John Trojanowski, Youth Bureau.
Good evening. Our summer programs got off to a very good start. We're in full swing. Our summer theater productions will be taking place on July 31st and August 1st at Lancaster Middle School. The children are doing the Nifty 50s. You will be invited to that. And then the following week on August 8th, 9th, and 10th, we are doing All Shook Up, the music of Elvis Presley. You will be invited to that.
Great.
And also our art show. We have a wonderful art show at the end of our summer program, and it will be on Friday, August 10th during the day. So we'll be receiving invitations to all of our events. And thank you for your support.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Chief Gummo? Doing, sir?
Similar to what Highway Superintendent Pilato said, we are seeking board support tonight for a new police officer position. We're looking to appoint a member to fill a vacancy within the department. The academy starts on the 29th, and that will be the official start date of this with board support. Also, just wanted to report that I've been actively speaking with Councilmember Schroeder in regards to trying to seek as much grant funding as we can. As you know, we've done what we can to try to grow this department, not only in numbers, but also in the areas that we are trying to expand: technology, commercial enforcement, what have you. So we are actively seeking as much grant funding as we can to bring that in to allow us to not only grow the department numbers to where they need to be, but also take advantage of opportunities to do more for the citizens of this town.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this point, since it's past 7:05, we're going to go right into our public hearing. Can I have a motion to go into the public hearing, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
On the roll?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Okay. Kevin, are you here from Greenlight? Yeah. Okay, come on up. Kevin, if you could tell everybody what you're planning to do. You sent me a nice email that summarizes everything. We want to make sure that the residents are aware.
Yep.
What do you want?
I have some documents here out there if anyone's interested.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Supervisor Leary. My name is Kevin Espinoza. I'm the General Counsel of Greenlight Networks. Greenlight is a fiber optic broadband provider. We were formed in Rochester, New York in 2011. We expanded into the Buffalo area about 4 years ago. We currently service residents of Cheektowaga, North Tonawanda, City of Buffalo, and the Village of Lancaster. We are seeking to expand our services into the town. What you see in front of you here is some information on the company, as well as where we would currently plan to build our network. We have our network equipment right now in the Twin Village Fire Department on William Street, so that area is where we would likely start our expansion. We currently use county right-of-way as well as state right-of-way and village right-of-way to get into the village and service residents there. Based on the 2020 census, there are about 12,000 housing units in the town of Lancaster, of which about 3,800 are currently serviced by fiber optic internet from other providers, mostly on the north side of the town. So we are seeking to expand to cover more portions of the southern portion of the town. Fiber optic internet, for those who aren't familiar, is a, generally speaking, faster, more reliable connection with less latency. With more individuals working from home, higher-end security systems, fiber internet is really something that's kind of a necessity in the 21st century here. Many realtors actually report now that home buyers will not look at housing that does not have fiber optic internet. So I will pause there and open the floor to any questions you may have, or from you or the members of the public.
First, I'm going to ask anybody on the board, do they have any questions at this point?
Not at this point.
Not at this point? Okay. Does anybody, anybody in the audience want to come up and address this issue? Now is your time. Just raise your hand and come on up. Okay. Gentleman in the yellow shirt, you'll be next, ma'am. Go ahead, state your name and address,
Good evening.
please.
My name's Larry Stazak, resident in the Windsor Ridge area. I guess I'm just curious as to why we only had one up to this point, Spectrum. Is there some agreement currently in place with Spectrum that gives them exclusivity, or are you guys able to bring in other? You know, I saw this and I'm thinking, well, what's the point if they can't really legally come into the town? Can they at this point?
There's going to be a contract, and this board will vote on it, and then we'll have the contract if they give me the authority to sign the contract, they could legally do it. The actual contract that was turned in is currently under review. This is one of our council people who's with us tonight, Deputy Counsel Emily Orlando. Our main counsel, town attorney, is looking over that contract at this point. And so as long as the contract is, the board agrees to give me the authority to sign it, and then there's no problems with the contract, they should be able to legally do it. I don't know of any, do you know of any exclusivity we have with anybody at this point?
No, I don't believe we have any exclusivity.
Okay, because years ago, I moved in here about 9 years ago into Lancaster from West Seneca, and I had the option of both Verizon and Spectrum back then. And Verizon came in and they were able to put fiber in ground without really without disturbing anything. I mean, they were going under driveways and under sidewalks and everything with very little impact, very little digging. And it was great because now there was a little bit of competition. We got better pricing. I had talked years ago to Verizon people around here, and they pretty much said, well, if you want to know why we don't have Verizon fiber, talk to your town council. And I don't know what that implication was, but it sounded like, Spectrum basically had this area, and that was exclusive. I know last year I had the town do some work on a drain tile for me, and all the utilities came out to mark off the utilities. The guy that pulled the Verizon tower indicated, he goes, we got fiber in here. He goes, this whole neighborhood's wired for fiber. That wasn't so it would almost seem like, I don't know what kind of agreements you can work out with maybe some of these other ones, because Verizon doesn't seem to want to come in here. And, there is fiber in our neighborhood. I'd love to have another option other than Spectrum. It's expensive, and it's not always reliable. So that's why I'm here tonight.
Okay, appreciate your input. Thank you very much.
Mr. Stasiak, your address?
My interest?
Address.
Oh, address, 14 Heathrow Court.
Thank you.
Ma'am, you want to come up? Good evening.
My name is Suzanne Marino. I live at 684 Town Line Road in Lancaster. And I wanted to piggyback on something that the gentleman before me said, that we only have one broadband provider. And you did mention that there's another Fios company out there. They're working in Depew, It's GoNet Speed. Are we going to also only have one choice of a Fios internet provider? If we go with Greenlight, is it possible to bring in others so we don't just have one broadband and one Fios provider?
Okay, do you have anything else? Again, do you want to respond to that?
I can, yeah, absolutely. So-
Yeah, if you could, so we can do that on the microphone, I appreciate that.
Yeah, so there's no exclusivity in our proposed agreement with the town, so other fiber providers can certainly come in. On the north side of town right now, my understanding is GoNet Speed does have coverage on the north side of town, as well as there are portions, very small portions of the town, mostly adjacent to Pleasant View Drive, that are serviced by Verizon Fios. My understanding is there is Fios on the ground in other parts of the town, but they don't have the infrastructure to connect it, point to point. So there's nothing exclusive here. If another provider comes in, they certainly can. Spectrum is a copper high-speed internet, and ours is a fiber internet, so you would have two internet choices. And just to, piggyback on the earlier comments, our experience has been when we enter into a new neighborhood, everyone's spectrum prices come down because they have competition, and so they have to be more competitive.
And then just one last question.
Yes, ma'am.
How do you connect that to the house? Is there an underground cable? Is it going to be a wire from the telephone poles?
Yep, so it depends on your house. If your house is fed above ground, we follow the above ground. If your house is fed underground, we follow the underground. So it's your house, however it's wired.
And then who's responsible for the wires coming to the house? It would be your company?
We maintain, yes.
And then, okay, anything coming into my house, then I would maintain that, or everything?
So our technician comes out and they install a box on the side of your house. The fiber runs from the pole or underground to that box, and then they install it into your house. And just like you have your cable modem today, you would have what's called an optical network terminal, an ONT, in your house, and the fiber connects into that just like your cable internet does today.
And are you giving any discounts for seniors?
I don't know if that's the criteria for being a senior. I mean, I happen to know I'm the same age as at least one member of the town board, but yeah, so I will say we have, I'm not trying to advertise, but we have flat pricing, $55 a month for our 500 by 500 service. I'm a Spectrum customer at my house. We don't have fiber at my house. I pay $89.99 for a 300 down, 20 up. So we're about 25 times faster on the upload and 3 times faster on the download for about $30 cheaper per month.
Thank you. Sir, come on up. Please state your name and address.
Richard Turner, 131 Pavement Road. My question is, if you come into the town, are you going to offer it to businesses as well as private homeowners? Because I'm stuck being a business, even though my home's on the same property, but I got to pay Spectrum the high rate. I can't get the good rate for the house because I have a business.
I'm with you.
So I'd like to know if you're going to come in and offer it to businesses as well as homes, and is there going to be a big differential like what Spectrum charges?
Thank you. Go ahead and answer that.
Yeah, and just, I don't want to overpromise, right? We wouldn't necessarily build every single house in the town, right? I don't want anyone to walk away thinking every single house will get built. It kind of depends on demand because it is a privately funded network. But with that said, we do have a small business offering. We can't service large enterprise customers, but it sounds like your shop would be small enough that we can service that as part of our small business. And the pricing for that, I am actually not familiar with. I think it's on our website, if you want to look at it there. Yep.
Okay. Does anybody else in the audience want to be heard on this particular matter at this time?
Mr. Supervisor, I do want to voice a dozen or so residents who did reach out to me via email and phone who are in favor of Greenlight.
Okay, any more than that, or go right ahead?
A little over a dozen, but that's just, I'm grouping, yes. So phone calls and emails I received.
Okay.
I've received the same, so.
Okay, very good. And there doesn't appear to be anybody else in the audience that wants to be heard on this matter. The reason we had this is because it affects everybody in the town of Lancaster. We didn't want to just go ahead and sign a contract before we heard from the people. The way this will work is, again, it'll probably come up at the next town board meeting, the permission to sign the contract. So again, anybody watching this live streaming or whatever, additional comments are more than welcome to send them to the town board. And then we'll make that decision at the next town board meeting. Anything else in there I have to consider? Or?
No, I think you covered everything.
Okay. Anything else you want to say before? Okay, thank you very much, appreciate it. Okay. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close.
And a second?
Second.
On the roll?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Okay. At this point in the meeting, we're going to turn this over to any persons who want to address the town board on any of the pre-filed or suspended resolutions only. The town board will hear the concerns of persons desiring to address the town board on any pre-filed or proposed suspended resolutions for a total period of 30 minutes. Please raise his or her hand and be recognized by the supervisor. Give his or her name and address to the town clerk, and speak directly to the town board members, not the audience, using the microphone provided, and speak once for 5 minutes or less unless the town board grants a speaker an extension of this time limit. Is anybody here tonight who wants to be heard on the pre-filed resolutions or the suspended resolutions? We got a young man with his hand up in the back. I'm not sure he wants to be heard on this. Anybody else that wants to be heard on this? Okay, going once, going twice. All right, we're going to turn this over. I don't have any hands up there, so we'll move on. At this point, are there any official reports from the town board that they want to make at this time?
I do, sir.
Okay.
A grant committee report. Again, I've been trying to work diligently with the grant writer company to match needs with grants that are available. However, last week I did file a request for grant funds, which were membership funds from the Governor Hochul's office for the recruitment and retention of lifeguards. I asked for $32,000, and this is free monies with no matching funds. So we're hoping we
Great.
get those funds.
Okay. Any other? Yes.
I do. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Mine is a reminder for everybody that there is a library rib roast dinner this Sunday, the 21st. It starts at 11:30. It's $15 per dinner. It's until it's sold out, right at the Lancaster Library on Broadway. And also, we did get the kitchen quote back as well. I'm just waiting for Ed to return, and he said he'll give me all the numbers, and we'll get it all over to them to approve.
Very good. Anything else?
No.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Dickman, anything at this point? Okay. I am going to do a report from our finance and management. Basically, the results, and we set up a financial meeting which was held at 6 o'clock. A lot of people are not aware of that yet. There will be quarterly meetings, but I want to make sure that the town residents know what's going on with their finances. So I'm going to read a report that we got from the New York State Comptroller's Office for the town supervisor's financial duties for 2023, not the current administration, the past administration. And I'm going to go through, I'm going to read you what their findings were. It wasn't good. And then I'm going to tell you what we did to fix it after I get done with their recommendations. Okay? There was an audit that was done that looked at 2023, the old administration, that was done to determine whether the town of Lancaster supervisor adequately performed his financial duties. Key findings: the former supervisor did not perform his financial duties and did not monitor the work performed by the firm he improperly contracted with to act as director of finance, resulting in incomplete and inaccurate financial records and significant control weaknesses. Monthly financial reports were not generated and provided to the town board, and bank reconciliations were not completed promptly. 86 budget lines were overspent by nearly $9.2 million. Now, as I explained earlier, and I'll explain again, a lot of that was probably due to the fact that they didn't properly load the money into the audit system, meaning it wasn't necessarily overspent, it just didn't show up, so it looked like it was overspent because it was never put in there properly. And 21 budget transfers totaling $483,122 were completed without board approval. 76% of non-recurring journal entries were made 70 days after the transaction took place. That's a long time. 60% of journal entries were recorded and approved by the firm without the supervisor's review or oversight. That was a third party that was taking care of everything that shouldn't have happened. The supervisor also compromised the security of the town's resources by granting unrestricted access to the financial system and online banking to a third party, and by not ensuring proper segregation of duties or other mitigating controls were in place. For perspective, the firm was allowed to distribute $2.5 million of the town's cash without any town officials' approval. Supervisor and the other town board members were unaware of these deficiencies and continued to pay the firm even though the contract terms were not fulfilled because they did not monitor the town's financial activity and the supervisor did not monitor the firm. Key recommendation, the audit reported, includes 16 recommendations to town officials. Town officials agreed. They talked to us with the recommendations and indicated they have already begun implementing actions. The recommendations are Number one, ensure that if an individual or firm is contracted to assist the supervisor with the financial duties, that the duties assigned are ministerial in nature and the appointment complies with applicable town policies. Two, ensure if it requests and receives accurate, detailed monthly financial reports that can be used to monitor and manage financial operations. Three, require all budget transfers to be presented to the board for approval. Four, consult with legal counsel to determine and record amounts remitted for services not rendered. Five, properly audit and approve all claims for payment. Six, adopt a written online banking policy to clearly describe the procedures for processing, authorizing, and reviewing online banking transactions, including who will initiate, approve, transmit, record, review, and reconcile such transactions. The supervisor should, number seven, properly appoint an individual to serve as a director of finance and monitor the individual performing their financial duties by periodically reviewing journal entries, records, and reports, online banking activity, and bank reconciliations to ensure that the supervisor's records are complete and accurately maintained. 8, provide or direct the Director of Finance to provide detailed monthly financial reports to the board, which includes a list of all money received and dispersed, budget to actual comparisons of revenues and expenditures, fund balance amounts, and reconciled cash balances for each fund. 9, ensure journal entries are completed in a timely manner. 10, identify all necessary budget transfers and present them to the board for approval before the transfers are made. 11, ensure bank reconciliations are prepared and reviewed in a timely manner. 12, ensure the appropriate bank transfers are made and the accounting records are adjusted to reflect the correct account balances. 13, restrict user access to the financial system and grant only those permissions necessary to perform job duties while considering separation of duty objectives. 14, maintain control of the supervisor's electronic signature and review all checks after they are prepared and the signature is applied. 15, discontinue granting third-party access to the town's bank accounts. 16, attend applicable and beneficial training sessions to better understand and perform their financial duties. Now, when they brought these to our attention, we did not dispute them. We responded, and basically I'm going to read you our response. Please accept this letter and additional information in response to the report of the examination regarding the Town of Lancaster Town Supervisor's financial duties. Town of Lancaster, New York acknowledges and does not contest the findings and recommendations presented following the audit of the former town supervisor in 2023. The rest of this is online for anybody to read. I can tell you and assure you, we took care of the recommendations that are on here and 2 that we're working on right now, which is consult with legal counsel to determine and recover amounts remitted for services not rendered by our contractor who had been hired last year. And 6, we're in the process of writing everything down in the bank policy so that it's, throughout my administration and further administrations, it'll all be written down, the policies that people have to follow. What happened last year was pretty much a disgrace. We never want it to happen again, and it will not happen under this administration. The first thing I did when I came into office was hire a director of administration and finance, and he's doing a terrific job. We set up the structures that should have been in place before that weren't last year, and basically we're keeping a very good eye on your money. It's the taxpayer money. We want to make sure everything is done properly. There wasn't any issues of anybody stealing money or anything like that. We didn't find any of that. Neither did our second audit from Dressler Malecki, our internal audit, but the bookkeeping was pitiful. So we want to make sure that things are done properly. It helps out the town, lets the residents know what's going on. Each week or periodically, we have communications. Each week, we have something in there for our check run, each town board meeting. And then once a month, we show where all the departments are and their expenditures as well. It's all included in the communications in total transparency so you folks can see how your money's being spent. Okay? So this was a bad report. We took the steps to fix what was in there. Any of the town board members want to comment on this at this point?
I would just like to reiterate to everybody that if you would like more information, it was all live streamed. It started at 6 o'clock with the financial meeting, and then we went into the work session where we talked about the external audit, and that I too found it to be a very troubling indicator of a financially inept administration whose mistakes were highly enabled by a crafty lack of transparency. But this board are now in the process of correcting those errors, as Supervisor Leary has stated, and we're sensitive to the need for full transparency.
Yeah, and those meetings, those financial meetings and management meetings will be held quarterly. So we'll be able to report on those. They will be live streamed, and you can come here and partake in those meetings if you wish to. They will be announced publicly before we have any of those meetings. Anyone else have any comments at this point? Okay, all right. At this point, we're going to move into our pre-filed resolutions. Okay, number one is mine. That is, be it resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of the town board held July 1st, 2024 be and are hereby affirmed. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? On the roll?
Councilmember Dickman.
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder.
Yes.
Councilmember Studley.
Yes.
Supervisor Leary.
Yes. Resolution number two. Be it resolved that the following audited claims be and are hereby ordered paid from their respective accounts as per abstract to be filed in the office of the town clerk by the supervisor's office, to wit, check run number 0715224. Total amount hereby authorized to be paid, $3,782,570.24. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? On the roll?
Councilmember Dickman.
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder.
Yes.
Councilmember Studley.
Yes.
Supervisor Leary.
Yes. Councilmember Dickman, number 345, please.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor and Honorable Board. I offer resolutions 3, 4, and 5 for adoption. Resolved that the following building permit applications be and are hereby reaffirmed. There's 38 total. There's 31 in the town, 7 in the village. Now therefore be it resolved that the building permit applications coded CSW for conditional sidewalk waivers be and are hereby reaffirmed with a waiver of the town ordinance required for sidewalks. However, the waiver is granted upon the express condition that the town of Lancaster at any future date reserves the right to order sidewalk installation at the expense of the property owner.
Do we have a second?
Second.
On the question? On the roll?
Councilmember Dickman.
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder.
Yes.
Councilmember Studley.
Yes.
Supervisor Leary.
Yes.
Number 4, whereas the town board of the town of Lancaster held a public hearing upon the application of Joanne Rocco for a special use permit for home occupation of antiques, home decor, and handcrafted items on the premise located at 5300 Williams Street, and the board issued such special use permit August 4th, 2008. And whereas per its terms and conditions, this special use permit is currently up for renewal, and whereas by letter dated June 18, 2024, Joanne Rocco has requested the town board renew the special use permit for an additional 2-year term, and whereas Matt Fichione, Code Enforcement Officer, completed a site inspection on July 2, 2024, and verified the use compliant to the 2022 special use permit per his letter dated July 2, 2024. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Lancaster does grant a special use permit renewal to Joanne Rocco for a home occupation of antiques, home decor, handcrafted items, retail store on the premise located at 5300 Williams Street upon the terms and conditions set forth in the zoning ordinance for the period beginning August 4th, 2024 and ending August 3rd, 2026. And that the applicant will continue in compliance with the conditions as set forth for supplementary regulations for home occupations and special use permits of the Code of the Town of Lancaster, and do any additional conditions listed herein as long as the applicant continues to engage in the home occupation of the premise, namely, and there are 4 conditions that permit terminates when they no longer reside in the premise. Permit is to be renewed every 2 years. The applicant will authorize representatives from the building inspector's office to enter upon reasonable notice, and that the applicant will provide a copy of the New York State federal tax ID number, and that's it.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
On the question? On the roll?
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Studley?
Yes.
Supervisor Leary?
Yes.
Resolution 5, whereas the Town Board of the Town of Lancaster held a public hearing upon the application of Angela Dussault for a special use permit for the home occupation of accounting and tax services on behalf of Joyce Mishka, owner of the real property located at 4982 William Street, Lancaster, New York, and the board issued such special use permit on September 6, 2022. And whereas per its terms and conditions, this permit is up for renewal. And whereas by letter dated July 1st, 2024, Angela Dussault has requested that the town board renew the special use permit for an additional 2-year term. And whereas Matt Fischione, code enforcement officer, completed a site inspection July 8th, 2024, and verified the use compliant to the 2022 special use permit per his letter dated July 8th, 2024. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Lancaster does hereby grant the special use permit renewal to Angela Dussault for the home occupation of accounting and tax services on the premise located at 4982 William Street upon terms and conditions set forth in the zoning ordinance for the period beginning September 20th, 2024 and ending September 19th, 2026, and that the applicant will continue in compliance with conditions set forth for supplementary regulations, home occupations, and special use permits of the Code of the Town of Lancaster, and to any additional condition listed herein, as long as the applicant continues to engage in the home occupation. And again, there's 4 conditions that are the same as the last.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
On the question? On the roll?
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Studley?
Yes.
Supervisor Leary?
Yes. Resolution number 6. Whereas the town board is considering the proposed construction of 6 new industrial warehouse buildings for a total of 109,884 square feet submitted by Uniland Development Company on approximately 128.04 acre parcel located at 4106 Walden Avenue, SBL number 94.00-4-7.1 in the town of Lancaster. And whereas the town of Lancaster Planning Board has reviewed the environmental impact of this project pursuant to seeker regulations at their meeting on June 26, 2024, and recommended a negative declaration be issued. And whereas the town board has duly considered the plans for the project using the full environmental assessment form, the criteria for determining significance set forth in 6 NYCRR section 617.7C of the State Environmental Quality Review Act, regulations, and such other information deemed appropriate, including the recommendation of the Town of Lancaster Planning Board. And whereas the Town Board has identified the relevant areas of environmental concern, has taken a hard look at these areas, and has made a reasoned elaboration of the basis for its determination. And whereas the proposed action has been labeled an unlisted action under seeker, now therefore be it resolved by the Town Board of the Town of Lancaster. Number 1, this project is described as the proposed construction of 6 new industrial warehouse buildings for a total of 109,884 square feet located at 4106 Walden Avenue, will not result in any large and important environmental impacts, and therefore will not have a significant adverse impact on the environment. 2, the reasons supporting this determination are set forth on the attached notice of determination of non-significance with respect to this project. 3, the town board as lead agency with reference to the above described action hereby adopts the attached negative declaration of environmental significance. 4, the town clerk shall file a copy of the negative declaration in the file for the project. 5, the town attorney's office shall prepare and file a notice of determination with the petitioner and with all required New York State and Erie County agencies, filing a copy of the letter of the transmittal. And 6, this resolution is effective immediately. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? On the roll?
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Studley?
Yes.
Supervisor Leary?
Yes. Resolution number 7, whereas the town board has considered the proposed phase construction of two 10,000 square foot warehouse structures submitted by Frank Adolph on behalf of TJR Products Corporation on approximately 3.75 acre parcel located at 1152 Town Line Road, SBL number 106.00-2-6.5 in the town of Lancaster. And whereas the town of Lancaster Planning Board has reviewed the environmental impact of this project pursuant to seeker regulations at their meeting on March 6, 2024, and recommended a negative declaration be issued. And whereas the town board has duly considered the plans for the project using the full environmental assessment form, the criteria for determining significance set forth in 6 New York CRR section 617.7 C of the State Environmental Quality Review Act regulations and such other information deemed appropriate, including the recommendation of the Town of Lancaster Planning Board. And whereas the Town Board has identified the relevant areas of environmental concern, has taken a hard look at these areas and made a reasoned elaboration of the basis for a determination. And whereas the proposed action has been labeled an unlisted action under seeker, now therefore be it resolved by the Town Board of the Town of Lancaster that 1, this project is described as the proposed construction of two 10,000 square foot warehouse structures located at 1152 Town Line Road will not result in any large and important environmental impacts and therefore will not have a significant adverse impact on the environment. 2, the reasons supporting this determination are set forth on the attached notice of determination of non-significance with respect to this project. 3, the town board as lead agency with reference to the above described action hereby adopts the attached negative declaration of environmental significance. 4, the town clerk shall file a copy of the negative declaration in the file for the project. 5, the town attorney's office shall prepare and file a notice of determination with the petitioner and with all required New York State and Erie County agencies, filing a copy of the letter of transmittal. 6, the resolution is effective immediately. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? On the roll?
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Studley?
Yes.
Supervisor Leary?
Yes. Resolution number 8, whereas Frank Adolph on behalf of TJR Products Corporation submitted an application for the phase construction of two 10,000 square foot warehouse buildings on approximately 3.75 acre parcel located at 1152 Town Line Road, SBL number 106.00-2-6.5 in the town of Lancaster as prepared by Robert Blood, RLA of Greenman Peterson Incorporated, containing a site plan drawing number 00-13 dated October 2023 and A2 and A1 dated 8/17/2023, received October 3rd, 2023 by the Town of Lancaster Building Department with revised drawings, drawing number 00-13 dated 2/12/24 and number 14 landscape plan added and dated 2/12/2024, A1 and A2 dated 8/17/2023, and whereas the town acting as lead agency duly considered the request for the project, including the recommendation of the Town of Lancaster Planning Board in conformance with seeker regulations, and on July 15, 2024, the town board issued a negative declaration, and whereas the Planning Board recommended to the town board on June 26, 2024, the approval of the site plan as submitted and in conformance with the town building and zoning codes, and now, therefore, be it resolved that the town board of the Town of Lancaster hereby approves the site plan submitted by Frank Adolph for 1152 Town Line Road. 1152 Town Line Road, prepared by Robert Blood, RLA, Greenman Peterson Incorporated, containing drawings number 0014 dated 2/12/24 and A1, A2 dated 8/17/2023. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, on the question? On the roll?
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Studley?
Yes.
Supervisor Leary?
Yes. Okay, number 9. Whereas a vacancy exists in the assessor's office within the town of Lancaster in the competitive class position of clerk typist due to the transfer of Roxanne Regala to the office of the town clerk, and whereas this vacancy was properly posted in all departments of the town of Lancaster for the period required by the applicable collective bargaining agreement, and whereas Eric Finbar, assessor for the town of Lancaster, by letter dated July 8, 2024, has recommended appointment of Jennifer Rautenstrach to fill the open position of clerk typist in the Town of Lancaster Assessor's Office, and whereas the CSEA White Collar Union has granted approval for the town to waive the probationary period of 6 months and the salary step procedure due to the time Jennifer is served in her position as secretary to the supervisor in the Town of Lancaster Supervisor's Office. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Jennifer Rautenstrach is hereby appointed to the position of clerk typist in the Town of Lancaster Assessor's Office, effective July 16, 2024, at an annual salary of $52,639, contingent upon approval by Erie County Department of Personnel, and that such appointment shall be subject to all applicable provisions of the collective negotiation agreement between the Town of Lancaster and the CSEA White Collar Union and all applicable provisions of law. And be it further resolved that the supervisor of the Town of Lancaster shall be authorized to take all necessary action to implement the foregoing. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question, all right, Jennifer is my secretary right now. She's going to be going down to the assessor's office. My position is an appointed position. Down there, it's a permanent position. I'm not going to block her from going. But that being said, anybody who wants to apply for my secretarial position, take a look at the website for the Town of Lancaster, okay? On the roll.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Studley?
Yes.
Supervisor Leary?
Yes, and by the way, she's done a great job for me, and I'm sure she'll do a great job down there. Okay, resolution number 10. Why are these all mine tonight? What's going on here? Okay, resolution number 10. Whereas 716 Site Contracting Inc., P.O. Box 120, North Boston, New York, 14110, who was contracted for contract TLN 13 for the Bowen Road and Genesee Street water main replacement, has submitted change order number 1 for a reconciliation in favor of the Town of Lancaster in amount of $119,105 or $19,105.05, and asking for extension until June 17, 2024 to complete restoration on the project of the town board for their approval. And whereas by letter dated June 27, 2024, town engineer Edward Schiller recommends that the town approve change order number 1. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town board of the Town of Lancaster hereby approves change order number 1 to 716 Site Contracting Incorporated with respect to the outline descriptions provided to the town board. Description of change order number 1, reconciliation of bid items from the as-bid contract quantity to the as-bid quantity, no cost extension of time to complete restoration on the project. Reason for change, all unit price and lump sum contract items were adjusted to reflect the as-built quantities. 2, lawn and paving restoration could not be completed in the fall of 2023. Conditions, compensation description, as-built quantities. There is a credit lump sum amount of $119,105. Be it further resolved that the supervisor be and is hereby authorized to execute this change order on behalf of the Town of Lancaster. So that money is coming back into the town from that project. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
On the question? On the roll.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Studley?
Yes.
Supervisor Leary?
Yes. Resolution number 11. Whereas Edward Schiller of William Shutt Associates, P.C., the Town of Lancaster's consulting engineers, by email dated July 10, 2024, has requested that the town board authorize an invitation to bid the electrical lighting supplies for various town buildings in the Town of Lancaster, and whereas the town board has given due review and consideration to the request for electrical lighting supplies and deems it in the public interest to invite public bids in conformance with general municipal law, section 103 of the state of New York. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town board of the Town of Lancaster hereby invites public bids for an electrical lighting supplies. Said bids are to be in conformance with the plans and specifications which are available at the office of William Shutt Associates, PC 37 Central Avenue, Lancaster, New York, and be received in the office of the town clerk, 21 Central Avenue, Lancaster, New York, no later than 10 a.m. local time on July 25th, 2024, and opened thereafter. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, on the question, basically, we're going to be able to get a lot of rebates from this project, and some other money's coming back in, so we won't have to pay the full amount. But we got to reach out and get the best price that we possibly can for these lights, so that's what this resolution is all about. And on the roll, please.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Studley?
Yes.
Supervisor Leary?
Yes. Resolution number 12, whereas John Pilato, Highway Superintendent of the Town of Lancaster, by letter dated July 10, 2024, has appointed Richard Burton Jr. to the position of laborer grade number 1 in the Town of Lancaster Highway Department pursuant to New York State Highway Law. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Lancaster hereby recognizes the appointment of Richard Burton Jr. of Lancaster, New York, to the position of laborer grade number 1 in the Town of Lancaster Highway Department effective July 29, 2024, contingent upon approval by Erie County Department of Personnel, and that such appointment shall be subject to all applicable provisions of the collective negotiation agreement between the Town of Lancaster and the CSCA Blue Collar Union and all applicable provisions of law. Be it further resolved that Richard Burton Jr. of Lancaster, New York, be and is hereby appointed to the full-time position of laborer grade number 1 in the Town of Lancaster Highway Department at an hourly salary of $25.93 on step, which represents 80% of the full salary of $32.41 per hour. Be it further resolved that the supervisor of the Town of Lancaster should be authorized to take all necessary action to implement the foregoing. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question, on the roll.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Studley?
Yes.
Supervisor Leary?
Yes. And is Mr. Burton in the audience with us tonight?
In the back.
In the back? Congratulations. Good luck on your job, and John's a great boss to work for, so. Thank you. Okay, resolution number 13. Whereas Chief William Gummel, by written request dated July 9, 2024, has recommended the appointment of John LaPiana, am I saying that right? LaPiana. Thank you very much. LaPiana, to the position of police officer to fill an open position in the Town of Lancaster Police Department, whereas Officer John LaPiana, I'm married to an Italian woman, I should be able to do it, is eligible for appointment to this position pursuant to the standards and procedures as set forth in New York State Civil Service Law. Now for, be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Lancaster hereby recognize the appointment of John of Lancaster, New York, to the position of police officer effective July 29, 2024, and be it further resolved that the Town of Lancaster shall be authorized to take all necessary action to implement the foregoing. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question, on the roll.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Studley?
Yes.
Supervisor Leary?
Yes. John, stand up. Welcome to the police department. John, just so you know, I spent about 26 and a half years in federal law enforcement, dealt with a lot of local police departments in that time period. What we have here in the Town of Lancaster is probably the finest local department I've ever had the opportunity to work with. So again, welcome on board. Stay safe. Okay, thank you. Resolution number 14. And John, if you want to stick around to the end, we'll take some pictures up here in the front, and if you want. Okay, resolution number 14, whereas John Trojanowski, Executive Director for the Town of Lancaster Youth Bureau, by letter dated July 8, 2024, has recommended the appointment of the following individual to the position of part-time temporary seasonal at the Youth Bureau for the spring-summer season of 2024. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the following individual is hereby appointed to the following part-time temporary seasonal position at the Youth Bureau for a period not to exceed 5 months, and that this being part-time position provides no health insurance, sick days, vacations, or other fringe benefits not specifically mandated for part-time employees. Name is Deborah Sosler, Lancaster, New York, tutor, $16 per hour. Be it further resolved that the supervisor of the Town of Lancaster shall be authorized to take all necessary action to implement the foregoing. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? On the roll?
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Studley?
Yes.
Supervisor Leary?
Yes. John, is Deborah with us tonight? No. Okay, thank you. Okay, resolution number 15, whereas John Trojanowski, Executive Director for the Town of Lancaster Youth Bureau, by letter dated July 8, 2024, has recommended the appointment of the following individuals to the position of part-time temporary seasonal at the Youth Bureau for the spring-summer season of 2024. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the following individuals are hereby appointed to the following part-time temporary seasonal position at the Youth Bureau for a period not to exceed 5 months, and that this being part-time position provides no health insurance, sick days, vacation, or other fringe benefits not specifically mandated for part-time employees. They are Julie Durham, tutor, $15 an hour, Timothy Zeller, $15 an hour. Be it further resolved that the supervisor of the town of Lancaster shall be authorized to take all necessary action to implement the foregoing. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? On the roll?
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Studley?
Yes.
Supervisor Leary?
Yes. Are they, no? Okay, thank you. Resolution number 16, Councilmember Dickman.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor and Honorable Board. I offer Resolution 16 for adoption. Whereas the Town Line Volunteer Fire Department, by email received July 3rd, 2024, has requested the deletion of one member from the active roster of said fire association. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Lancaster hereby deletes from the membership of the Town Line Volunteer Fire Department the following individual, Eric Tarver.
Do we have a second?
Second.
On the question? On the roll?
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Studley?
Yes.
Supervisor Leary?
Yes. Resolution number 17. Okay, whereas Richard Thurnhere submitted an application for the 4,791 square foot expansion of an existing parking lot to be used as a pre-owned car sales and repair facility on approximately 1.48 acre parcel located at 131 Pavement Road, SBL number 105.00-4-63 in the town of Lancaster, prepared by Anthony Pandolfi, PE of Carmino Wood Design, containing a site plan drawing number C-100, dated October 23rd, 2023, with a 1,200 square foot addition to an existing building to be used for the storage of vehicles, with revisions date of January 30th, 2024, on a site and grading plan drawing number C-100. And whereas the town, acting as lead agency, duly considers the request for the project, including the recommendation of the Town of Lancaster Planning Board in conformance with seeker regulations, and on May 6, 2024, the Town Board issued a negative declaration, and whereas the Zoning Board of Appeals granted setback and stormwater relief at their June 13, 2024 meeting, which included relief of Town Code Chapter 400, Zoning Section 18, Subsection D, Schedule B, no front, no side, no rear yard parking lot area setback, and relief of Town Code Chapter 400, Zoning Section 72, Subsection A1, no stormwater detention provided. And whereas the Planning Board recommended to the Town Board on June 26, 2024, the approval of the site plan as submitted and in conformance with the town building and zoning codes, now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Lancaster hereby approves the site plan submitted by Richard Thurnhere, 131 Pavement Road, prepared by Anthony Pandolfi, PE, Carmino Wood Design, containing site and grading plan C-100 for the proposed 4,791 square foot expansion for a parking lot to be used as pre-owned car sales and repair facility with 1,200 square feet addition to an existing building to be used for the storage of vehicles with the following conditions. 1, the 1998 special use permit is amended for this project as required by 400-17B1U, currently in violation by the used car display extending north of the residence building line. And 2, clear demarcation of the display area and enclosure are required for this project as prescribed in 400-19D supplementary regulations for LC and GC districts. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? On the roll?
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Studley?
Yes.
Supervisor Leary?
Yes. Councilmember Schroeder, number 18 and 19, please.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
A lot of talking. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I move resolution number 18. Whereas Camco General Contracting, 10994 Tinkham Road, Darien, New York, the contractor for the Town Hall soffit repair located at 21 Central Avenue, has submitted change order number 1 in the amount of $19,388 to the town board for their approval based on the description previously provided to the board by consulting engineer Edward Schiller. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Lancaster hereby approves change order number 1 to Camco General Contracting with respect to the outline descriptions provided to the town board. Description of change order number 1. Additional cost is due to the use of an epoxy to eliminate further deterioration of the wood in order to apply primer and paint on the soffits. Change order number 1, the original contract sum was $243,652. The contract sum will be increased by this change order in the amount of $19,388. So the new contract sum will be $263,040. Be it further resolved that the supervisor be and is hereby authorized to execute this change order on behalf of the town of Lancaster.
Do we have a second?
Second.
On the question? On the roll?
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Studley?
Yes.
Supervisor Leary?
Yes.
And Resolution 19, Mr. Supervisor, I move Resolution 19, whereas the Town Board of the Town of Lancaster previously authorized a capital improvements project consisting of the reconstruction of and construction of improvements to the town's public safety building located at 525 Pavement Road within the Town of Lancaster, and whereas on November 5th, 2021, Trito Engineers prepared a report detailing the issues related to the concrete masonry veneer on the facade of the town's public safety building located at 525 Pavement Road, and whereas by memo dated June 20th, 2024, consulting town engineer Ed Schiller, P.E., has recommended utilizing Kidney Architects, B.C. as the design consultants, Trito Engineers as the structural engineering consultants, and Trophy Point LLC as the cost estimating consultants to provide professional services which include design specifications and construction management and estimates for the different repair options available for the town to consider. And whereas the cost for these professional services for the necessary repairs to the town's public safety building are as follows: $17,920 for Kidney Architects, $2,400 for Trito Engineers, $7,250 for Trophy Point, for the proposal dated June 19, 2024. Now therefore be it resolved as follows: that the Town Board of the Town of Lancaster hereby accepts the proposal dated June 19, 2024, as presented from Kidney Architects as design consultants, Trito Engineers as the structural engineer consultants, and Trophy Point as the cost engineering estimating consultants to perform the professional design and construction services necessary for the reconstruction of and construction of improvements to the town's public safety building located at 525 Pavement Road, which costs estimated to not exceed the amounts outlined previously. And be it further resolved that payment for the professional services being provided by Kidney Architects, Trito Engineers, and Trophy Point will be paid for with funds available in the Public Safety Building Capital Improvements Bond resolution approved on March 21st, 2022. And be it further resolved that the supervisor is and hereby authorized to execute the proposal dated June 19th, 2024, pending receipt and approval of the required insurance documents by the supervisor's office.
Do we have a second?
Second.
On the question? On the roll?
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Studley?
Yes.
Supervisor Leary?
Yes. Okay, that concludes our pre-filed resolutions. At this point in time, I'm asking one of the council members to give me a motion to suspend the rules.
So moved.
Okay, and do I have a second?
Second.
On the roll?
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Studley?
Yes.
Supervisor Leary?
Yes. Now, these are suspended resolutions that I'm going to be doing, two of them. First one, whereas on October 12, 2021, WKPR LLC, Oak Ridge MFR Holdings LLC, and RDNW LLC, collectively applicants, filed an applications with the town of Lancaster to rezone a 4.9-acre parcel located at 338 Harris Hill Road, SBL number 8204-1-1.11 property from light commercial to multifamily use, multi-use, MFMU, the application. And whereas the property is currently operated as a pre-existing non-conforming residential use within the LC zoning district where the establishment of new residential uses or expansions of pre-existing residential uses is prohibited, and whereas the application was accompanied by exhibits demonstrating the applicant's intent to expand its pre-existing non-conforming residential use of the property to accommodate 40 to 60 multifamily dwelling units, and whereas upon receipt of the application, the Town of Lancaster Town Board, as required by local law, referred the applicant to the Town of Lancaster Planning Board for consideration of environmental impacts associated with the rezoning application consistent with the State Environmental Quality Review Act, and whereas on May 16, 2022, the Planning Board recommended that the Town Board issue a negative declaration as to the rezoning application, and whereas the Planning Board recommendation of a negative declaration was largely based upon Part 1 Environmental Assessment Form EAF submitted by the applicants, which indicated the proposed rezoning action will have impacts to the West Erie Canal corridor, and whereas the recommendation also found that there may be impacts to downstream groundwater resources, and whereas any action to rezone the property from LC to MFMU is likely to result in future development activities that present additional burdens on finite public resources, such as police, fire, EMTs, public water resources, and sewage capacity, among others, and whereas notwithstanding the applicant's contention that the rezoning action will not cause substantial increases in traffic congestion, and approval of the application would create the possibility of additional development on the property that could result in substantial increases in traffic, and whereas rezoning the property consistent with the application is contrary to the goals and objectives set forth in the town's comprehensive plan it describes below, and whereas the property is surrounded by 14 other parcels within its immediate vicinity that are also Zone LC, and whereas any action to rezone a single parcel in that same area for LC to MFMU would therefore be subject to challenge as illegal spot zoning, and whereas on June 6, 2022, after a duly noticed public hearing and after due consideration, the Town Board in its legislative discretion voted to deny the rezoning application. Whereas more than 8 months later, on February 10, 2023, applicants filed an action in Erie County Supreme Court pursuant to civil practice law and rules, Article 78, as well as Section 3001 and 3017, challenging the Town Board's decision to deny the rezoning application in the CWKP LLC et al. Versus Town of Lancaster et al. Index number 802001 of 2023, Supreme Court, Erie County. And whereas notwithstanding the 4-month statute of limitations established under CPLR Section 7803 to challenge final agency decisions on June 3, 2024, the Erie County Supreme Court directed the Town Board to cast a revote on the application within 60 days, the order, whereas pursuant to the order, the Town Board is taking action concerning its initial June 6, 2022 determination with respect to the application. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Town Board of the Town of Lancaster that after thorough and careful review of the application, the Town Board hereby denies the proposed rezoning of the property from LC to MFMU for the multi-reasons set forth below. A, as the property is located at the intersection of two county roads, 275 276, the proposed rezoning is likely to result in increased traffic congestion during critical hours of the day for commuters, visitors, and community members alike. Such congestion in the vicinity of large residential living facilities, a nearby public park, and a local school present unacceptable risk to pedestrians, cyclists, and drivers. B, the proposed rezoning application is inconsistent with the town's comprehensive plan, which clearly sets forth the goal of decreasing traffic congestion and promoting pedestrian safety, particularly in areas close to schools and public parks. C, the proposed rezoning action is likely to result in future development activities that present additional burdens on public resources, including but not limited to first responders, public water, sewage, and downstream groundwater resources. D, the proposed rezoning action is likely to cause additional impacts to the West Erie Canal corridor. E, in light of the 14 other parcels surrounding the property that are also zoned LC, any action to rezone the property to MFMU would likely constitute illegal spot zoning. And F, in the interest of protecting public safety, health, and welfare, the property should therefore remain zoned as LC. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? Basically, we voted this down at one point, it went to court, and now they're asking us to re-vote on it again. On the roll.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Studley?
Yes.
Supervisor Leary?
Yes. Okay, and the next suspended resolution. Whereas the Town of Lancaster property and liability insurance policy through Lawley Service is expiring and needs to be renewed, and whereas Robert Leary, Town Supervisor of the Town of Lancaster, upon diligent review and investigation, has recommended that said property and liability insurance policy be renewed through Lawley Service, and whereas Lawley Service will provide to the Town of Lancaster and a property and liability insurance policy for the period of July 19th, 2024 through July 19th, 2025, and per the proposal from Lawley Services dated July 19th, 2024, and whereas the hiring of Lawley Service is a professional service, now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Lancaster hereby authorizes the Town Supervisor to execute on behalf of the Town of Lancaster the insurance proposal as presented between the Town of Lancaster and Lawley Services for property and liability insurance as described in said proposal at a cost not to exceed $538,007.34 per year in accordance with the terms and conditions set forth in said proposal. And be it further resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to execute the proposal as presented, as well as all related and necessary documents to bind said property and liability insurance policy with Lawley Services upon town attorney approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? On the roll.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Studley?
Yes.
Supervisor Leary?
Yes, that concludes all our pre-filed and suspended resolutions. At this point in time, we're going to move to the presentation of communications by the town clerk. Okay. 328, Planning and Zoning Committee. 329, Planning and Zoning Committee. 330, Drainage Committee. 331, Planning and Zoning Committee. 332, received and filed. 333, resolution tonight. 334, received and filed. 335, resolution tonight. 336, resolution tonight. 337, for resolution. 338 is a duplicate. 339, a resolution tonight. 340, received and filed. 341, Planning and Zoning Committee. 342, received and filed. 343, received and filed. 344, resolution tonight. 345, Town Board. Okay. 346, resolution tonight. 347, received and filed. 348, received and filed. 349, going to the Town Board. 350, resolution tonight. 351, resolution tonight. 352, resolution tonight. 353, resolution tonight. And 354, received and filed. And 355, received and filed. Okay, now we come to the part of the Town Board meetings where any individuals who want to be heard on any matter can address the Town Board, and for a period of up to 30 minutes, 5 minutes at a time for the individuals. Procedures: if you want to be heard, raise his or her hand and be recognized by the supervisor. Give his or her name and address to the town clerk. Speak directly to the Town Board members, not the audience, using the microphone provided, and speak once for 5 minutes or less, unless the Town Board grants the speaker an extension of this time limit. Do we have anybody who wants to be heard on any matter heard by the Town Board? Please raise your hand. In the back, yes, sir. Come on up.
How you guys doing today?
Good. Please state your name and your address.
My name is Mackenzie Ryder Work. Currently, I reside in Clarence, but I'm an employee at LVAC. That's Lancaster Volunteer Ambulance Corps, in case you guys do not know. I'm going to start by saying nobody goes into EMS for the money. We do it for the job. Even though financial trouble and anything that comes our way, we stay true to the mission, and that's the people. Whether you live in the town or not, that's our goal. Currently, I'm a volunteer firefighter EMT with a neighboring company that will not be named. We have been called for our ambulance with multiple response times anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. I'm telling you all this because not a lot of people at LVAC will. When we have no ambulances at LVAC, other ambulances are quickly scrambled, be that AMR, Southline, Clarence, Alden, and Elma, and farther beyond if those can't be called. Those are also volunteer fire departments. All getting farther and farther away from the great people of Lancaster. LVAC needs the experience and fiscal responsibility of the supervisor and the town board to remain viable. Coverage has dropped to an unacceptable level, but if LVAC goes under, nobody else will be able to provide enough. Right now, the paid staff at LVAC has taken a pay cut in hours to ensure that the doors stay open to the people, but we feel that the ultimate mission of EMS coverage at LVAC has been compromised. Right now, we had a fellow employee that tried to word this to you guys and let you guys know the truth. I feel that things are not going in his way. He's being targeted a little bit. Ultimately, he's not able to work. He's a higher level of care for you folks here in the village, and that's another employee that cannot work. So just wanted you guys all to know that. Do you guys have any questions for me? I'm not a representative there. I'm just an employee. But do you guys have any questions? Or
I don't have any questions at this point in time.
Your name, you said Mackenzie?
Yeah, MACKENZIE, Rider Work, RIDER-WORK.
W-O-R-K?
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to be heard on any matter? Yes, sir.
Honorable Supervisor and Town Council, may I sit down, please?
Yes.
Thank you. I am extremely honored and humbled to be granted the opportunity by the people of our community to lead our great town for the next 4 years. I am ecstatic to begin this new chapter in my life, and I will be here to serve you, the people, in which my decisions will be solely upon what will be best for our community as a whole and not special interest groups. I will continue to enforce my fiscally conservative agenda to protect our residents from overpaying for service, along with running an open and transparent government. This paragraph was uttered by Democrat Ron Ruffino in our inauguration speech for the Town of Lancaster supervisor's position on January 1st, 2020. Leading up to the New York Comptroller Audit Report. New York State Town Law 20, Section 29 states the supervisor's duties as treasurer under Section 29 include collecting, receiving, and having the care and custody of monies belonging to or due to town. Town Law 29-1, and disposing all such money in designated banks or trust companies within 10 days of receipt. Town Law 29-2. The town board and residents should understand Ron Ruffino in a private sector worked for HSBC Bank /USA for 18 years as a vice president for global payments and cash management. Within being the town of Lancaster supervisor, Democratic Supervisor Ruffino received in 2020 a salary of $71,098. At that time, Supervisor Ruffino was peeved at his $71,098 town salary and was denied a $5,000 stipend. Following 2021 through 2023, Mr. Ruffino had a salary of $72,164, totaling for 4 years $287,590, in which the New York State Comptroller wrote under key findings, the former supervisor did not perform his financial duties and did not monitor the work performed by the firm he improperly contracted with to act as director of finance, resulting in incomplete and inaccurate financial records and significant control weaknesses. What's not stated during the comptroller's audit was I call it the names that people might not know and what was really the supervisor's Ruffino not following his position. And that firm recommended by Supervisor Rufinio's name was EBC HR and Payroll Solution, Inc. At that time, I will point out, council member at the time, that is now our supervisor, Leary, voted no. He does not believe like I in any type of three-party coming in to work in a public service position whatsoever in any capacity within our town and or village. That's where I live. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody?
I just hope everybody understands the 4 years.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Does anybody else want to address the town board at this time on any subject matter? Okay, seeing no hands, we're going to shut down this part of the town board meeting. At this point, we're going to go into executive session. We will leave some time if you want pictures with anybody on the town board, but we're going to be going into executive session. Can I have a motion to go into executive session, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
On the roll.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Studley?
Yes.
Supervisor Leary?
Yes. Okay, so we're going to have to go into executive session after some photos, and we'll come back out after that's all done. Thank you very much.
Adios.
Be down.
Army?
Yeah.
Oh, no,
Yeah. No contractual.
no reason to
Yeah, contractual.